Okay, let's talk about the role player all stars from last season in September. That makes sense, right? Shout out to Rusty on Twitter for tweeting about this series. I don't really know how you technically categorize a role player. The three weird ones for me are Draymond, Mikal Bridges, and Marcus Smart. All three of them are among the best defensive players in the league. Draymond and Marcus are very good to great passers. Mikal is a super efficient 14 points a game guy. Do I consider them role players? I feel like I'm overthinking it, but I just figure I would acknowledge them now. So anyway, let's start with the thumbnail. It's Al Horford. You know, Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year. Time Lord was in consideration, and of course his weak side defense is great. Partially why I went with Horford is because he played a lot more minutes than Time Lord did in the playoffs because, Time Lord was dealing with the knee, I believe it was. The Celtics defense went through the roof when they started having Time Lord lean more into being the help defender, right? Well, for that to work, you need somebody who's really solid in the middle, and Horford just always was that. I mean, if you think about the playoffs, like in the round 2 series against the Bucks, I mean, Giannis did go for 34, 15, and 7, so obviously he was incredible in that series. But Horford, as the primary defender in the half court, like he at least got a few more misses out of Giannis at the rim than I think most guys would. In the round 3 series against the Heat, he was playing drop coverage a lot, and there were a few games in there where Miami was just really struggling to do anything against that because they just weren't making their pull-up jumpers. Now Bam had the game where he went off on him, and of course in the finals, well, Steph Curry is a different thing. Even so, I mean, hey, it was game 6 of the finals. I don't think that demotes you from the role player all-stars, you know what I mean? Next we go to another big guy. I'm going to go Kavon Looney. So here's a clip of Looney getting or being switched onto Luka in the Dallas series. And this was a thing that happened semi-regularly where Looney held up really well in these possessions on Luka. Maybe not every single one, I don't remember, but his plan was basically just sort of shade Luka towards the help or just not get cooked, and I think he did a good job, and that to me is like the most memorable thing about his playoff run. But he was super solid for the Warriors, as he has been for years now. Next, we go to the point guard. I'm pretty sure Tyus Jones has been here before, but I just kind of got to do it again, man, especially because Ja Morant missed so many games. I mean, you talk about just making the right decision basically every time after he gets a screen, whether it's like a bounce pass to Steven Adams on the roll or hitting the guy in the corner, like it's Desmond Bain or Dylan Brooks open there or whatever. In the regular season, 324 assists, 46 turnovers. And then in 12 games in the playoffs, he had 54 assists. As for the backup point guard, of course, Monte Morris has to be in here. If I mentioned this with Tyus Jones, basically everything I just said about Tyus can go for Monte as well. I do want to mention somebody who I don't think has ever been on here before, unless he has, and my bad. Pat Conniton. I feel like we take him for granted a little bit on the Bucks, man. And I guess he's considered a backup here. It doesn't matter. I don't know. The thing I remember about Conniton is in that Celtics-Bucks series, as intense as it was, he looked really composed. And every time he was open for a three, I was like, oh, this is going to go in. And he's also one of the best, or at least better, rebounding guards slash small forwards in the league. You want to know his averages in that Celtics series? 10 points, 5 rebounds on 54 from the field and over 40 from three. It's Dorian Finney-Smith. And I said in my Mavericks, or in my questions about the West video for the Mavericks part, I was like, yeah, I don't totally know what the best lineup for the Mavs is going to be, but I'm pretty sure Finney-Smith is going to be in there. Because I just feel like you can slot him in anywhere. I feel like you can have him guard, I don't want to say anybody, but almost anybody. I mean, if you were going to create your perfect 3-and-D guy, it's basically Fitty Smith. There was a thing years ago where it was like, a trainer was like, yeah, Finney-Smith's the only guy I've ever trained who knew exactly what he was from the moment he showed up in the NBA. Some say he's got a 7-foot wingspan. Some it's like 6'11", he's 6'8", he's super smart defensively. And of course from three, like the guy's just one of the best catch and shoot guys in the league at this point. Remember that one game he had against the Suns where he made like 8 threes or whatever. I have no idea who is actually a starter or a backup at this point on this list. Next we have Herb Jones, who is already one of the, 12 best defensive players in the league. Like, I don't know what the exact number is, but man, Herb, I feel like it's impossible to set a screen on the guy because he's able to do the get skinny thing to get around screens. Sometimes he beats the guard to the spot going around a screen. He's already kind of the master at the reach in from the wing when a guy's driving and I'm still sticking to my guy thing. Of course, it helps with his wingspan. He averaged, 2 steals and a block a game, almost a block a game. And as a non-center, that's pretty damn difficult to do. But his instincts and his timing on when to come weak side to help at the rim and all that, It's pretty nutty. And then offensively, he does just enough. And if he ever gets to like 38% from three, I mean, for what it's worth, he shot 40% in the round one series against the Suns from outside. If he gets to some number from outside, then it's like this guy's just the greatest role player of all time. Next, we have Jared Vanderbilt, who grabbed a whole bunch of rebounds for the T-Wolves, and I like rebounds, especially offensive ones. A little stat for you. So the per 36-minute rebound leaders last season, the first guy to pop up who is not a center or Giannis is Jared Vanderbilt. And also Giannis played a good amount of center, which maybe that helps Vanderbilt's case as well. Is he meant to be on the Jazz for the next however many seasons? I don't know. But whether he's there, whether he's on some other team who trades for him, the fan base is going to love him. As for his offense, I mean, I know he's not a three-point shooter pretty much at all, but one, the offensive rebounding helps with that because you really can't ignore him. But also, two, I think between screen setting, cutting to the basket, he makes it work. And also, when the Wolves were doing their Towns play really high up on screens thing, which resulted in everybody having to rotate a lot, Vanderbilt fit in right at home on that one, man. Nick Batum. Batum might be one of the best help defenders in the league at this point. The guy is kind of a master at timing the help. I'm not sure if there's any specific thing that really shows up in the stats. I mean, his blocks per game have been slightly higher with the Clippers than they were with the Hornets. But just watching the guy, it's like, it's an art. His three ball has been great the last 2 years. Yeah, he's not handling the ball as much as he was with the Blazers when he was the 15, 5, and 5 guy. But even so, he still makes the right play, whether it's just simply keeping the swing offense moving at times, you know? I think it's unfair how many wings the Clippers have. Everybody wants wings, and the Clippers have 7. You know how much the Lakers would love to have Nick Batum? Anyway, now we go to Chicago, where initially I was going to go with Caruso, but then he played half the season because of injury. And so then I was like, do I go with Ayo? Because Ayo, I mean, he stepped up huge, man. From January 7th till the end of the regular season, he was basically 4th in touches per game on the team, and the gap between him and everybody else wasn't that big. They were asking him to be basically the point guard at stretches of the season, and he would look really composed coming around screens, and sometimes he would look to get the defender on his back, and then he's hitting Vooch on the roll or maybe on the pop or whatever. There was a game in February where Trae Young had a pretty rough game, to say the least. He had 14 points on pretty bad efficiency. And I do remember Ayo giving him some fits, including a play that I think was the biggest play late in the game where he blocked him after Trae tried to take him ISO. With the amount of picks the Bulls traded to get Vooch and DeRozan and all that, drafting Ayo, it's kind of the dream.